lecture for what we call the Victorian age, which is really, really the root and the base of whatever humanity has, or for a long time. It's from that age begins the human progress. It is from the Victorian up to now. Before the Victorian, there was nothing. There was only death and the Christian monarchs and the Christian church ruling the world. Now, with the Victorian, now the whole thing changed. All right, are you recording, Hassanin? Are you recording? I need to hear from you. Yes, sir. Thank you very much. Okay. That do you want me to start now, and then you can send them the record if they say that they haven't um, they couldn't attend or whatever that might be. Yeah. Now, what we need to do is what we have basic beliefs of the Victorian era. What are these basic beliefs of Victorian era that we talked about? Identity, number one. Morality, number two. Consumerism, number three. Are you with me, folks? Are you with me? Three elements are very important to cover in this lecture. And Hassanin is recording. Thank you very much. All right. The Victorian era, of course, everybody knows. It's named after the name of Queen Victoria. Queen Victoria became the Queen of England in 1837, and she was only 18 years old. Imagine, she ruled until she died in 1901. That is, after ruling for 64 years. What a time, for God's sake. The Victorian era was a time in England or English history when political stability and strict cultural norms. Listen to this. Political stability and strict cultural norms. These two facts I want you to emphasize as much as you can. So, Queen Victoria uh, became the queen of the empire, as you know, and the empire was getting bigger and bigger, spreading across the Americas, South Africa, India, and of course Australia. Now, that is the time that she ruled. At the time of her death, listen to this, the empire has expanded significantly, not surprisingly, that she was working for 64 years. Imagine, okay, if we want to compare that with the rest of the world, and imagine there, there, boy, the expansion was unbelievable for the empire. That is, starting with Western Canada, starting with in New Zealand, and then getting more territories in Africa, and then here we go in Southeast Asia, and significant acquisition in Africa, as we said, and having one ruler in charge for such a long time. And fortunately, uh, or fortunately, I don't know, it's up to you. See where you see it, where you stand, and, having such an impact on people living in the British Empire. Well, and the first is that number one, it provided political stability. Yes, 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 yes. Imagine. Now, if we compare the rule of Queen Victoria with other rulers in the world, say, for example, in Germany, the time she was ruling the empire, she had 18, oh my goodness. In fact, she had 7 kings in Germany and 18 different presidents in the USA. Imagine. So the people, the empire appreciated having one ruler, okay? One ruler in charge, okay, for such a long time. Then comes one, strict cultural norms. Yeah? So we have political stability and then strict cultural norms. This is how you control the way people act and interact or react. So that's this. Take stability and order. If you don't respect the rules, of course, the rules set by your peers. If you don't respect the rules, then you will be what? You will be rejected. You won't be accepted at all by your peers. For example, what you did on a daily basis and who you talked to depended on who you were. See? So the identity here. Remember we talked about it? In other words, your identity. What makes the identity in the Victorian era, as we know, three elements, three important elements, okay, makes this identity. And these elements are the gender, the race, and the class. Correct? Ready? Ready to hear that? All right. Let's begin with these three. These three elements are the most important that constitute what identity is: gender, race, and class. So your combination of these three things would affect what you could do in life or on a daily basis. Imagine. Let's look at race, for example. Take race, okay? Let's take race now. Many think that, or believe, that the great chain of being, here is the problem. This is the racist idea that I hate to talk about, but unfortunately, it is there and it is explained and it is accepted by the whole community. It is the great chain of being. It explains which things are more important and which things are less important. Okay? Depending on your race. Depending on your race. Here is a version. I'm going to give you a version of the great chain of being. First comes who? God on top. God on top. God the Creator. He is on top of this chain. Then comes the angels, of course. After God comes the angel, surrounding the room, the tent of God's tent, okay, and working and serving God. Then humankind. It didn't say human being, humankind. In other words, humans also are considered different kinds. All right. Then higher animals, represented by the lion, the king of the forest. Okay, and then after the higher animals, you get the lower animals, represented by the frog, poor frog. After that, you have the plants, and finally at the end comes the rocks. The rocks, my friend, comes the rocks. Some people living in the Victorian era were so obsessed with organizing things that they created a chain of being for humans. Okay? Imagine, so obsessed it tells you. Now, this is the racist thing. Okay? This chain organized all races of the world into those more or less, what do we call them? Okay? More or less what? Important races. Okay. Okay. Sometimes the races include different nationalities, right? You'll have things, imagine, you will have things as a British, as a race. Then Italian, a race. Russian, a race, yes. Asian, a race. So you should not be surprised when you hear that they put the British people at the top when it comes to the human race. They come at the top, okay? And at the bottom of the chain were those human who were most different from the British, say. So Africans, right? Asians, First Nations, people come at the end, unfortunately. Racist, a racist divisions. Too bad, too bad. All right, never mind. But this is what we have in the Victorian era. So we come here, so we come at the end of the chain, these races. Then in the middle were those people who look like British people. But, okay, were not British. Okay, so this human, imagined chain of being was a very racist idea. I hate it. I hate it. I don't want to be involved with it. But well, we have no other option but to mention it as it was very popular and people really believed it was very accurate. So please remember at this time, if you are people, if you are people who are country after country, imagine, just imagine, over the world might make sense to you that the British race is what? Better than any other race. Better than any other race. So that's another racist idea, another idea I hate to continue with, but just to go through it. But imagine, take your stance, saying that it is not right, but according to that, it is right. Okay, and therefore, the way it was. So, if you are if your race was British, and you could do and achieve more, okay, at the British Empire than if you were Africans or Asian or other race that is not British. So that includes what? Jobs, for example. There are certain jobs only British can get. And owning property, only British can do that. And voting, the British. So we are still with the race factor, all right? Now, after the race, we said three. We come to the second factor that is important here, and we say it is gender. Gender is important, and gender was similar in keeping with the idea that everything has its place. Why I say in keeping with what? With the arrangement made by the Victorians. If people living in the Victorian era think that men and women had their own places for a variety of reasons. The women's place was at home, because she was more nurturing, kinder, sweeter than man. So the theory went that the best place for a woman was staying at home, keeping it clean, raise children. Imagine staying at home, keeping it clean, and raise children. That is the job for women. No more, no less. Why? As I said, because women are weaker and kinder and sweeter, and they have to do this. Their place is at home. Men, on the other hand, imagine, are meaner, tougher, meaner, tougher. So where do you put them? Huh? Their place was at the outside, facing the harsh realities of the difficult world. The harsh realities represented by business and politics. These areas, according to these ideas, were not suitable for a woman. Neither business nor politics. Not at all. What indications you think this author believes that the woman should stay at home? So, in the Victorian era, it was thought to be inappropriate. Listen to this. I repeat, the Victorian era, according to the gender and place of women, okay, according to their gender, it was thought to be inappropriate for a woman to go out in public by herself. No way. You cannot do that. We are in Samoa today. Exactly. Okay? For a woman to go out in public by herself, if she, oh boy, if she do what? If she is what? Accompanied, she should be accompanied. If she had to go out, she should be accompanied. Mahram, all right? It's inappropriate to go by herself, but publicly. But she had to do, if she had to go out, she should be accompanied by a man, a male, preferably husband, father, or a brother. Imagine. The idea was because the woman should be protected once gender affected the rule in the Victorian society, okay, and the actual physical places they can occupy. See? So you cannot occupy a place that is contrary to your gender. Your gender is a female. You have to abide by the rules set up by the Victorian era. And the last element of these three elements that we talked about, race, gender, and the third one is class. And as we know, the class is divided into three kinds. That is, the upper class, the middle class, and the lower class, or the working class. Be careful that these communities are divided accordingly. Okay, communities, upper class, especially in the Victorian era, they're there to establish a clear division between people depending on the socio-economic classes. Upper class, you are what? You are the wealthier. You are the aristocrats, or the aristocratic families, often those who were born into positions of privilege. Okay, by birth alone. by birth, owning uh, 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 acres of land and property and all that. So the upper class were the wealthier, we said, the aristocratic families of those who were born into positions of profession, no, of positions of privilege. Then comes the middle class. Finished with the upper? The middle class, normally, people like us. In other words, what? People like us who have who are lawyers, doctors, okay, but in a profession, who are in a profession, who are owning business. They were financially secure. Imagine, they were financially secure. Yes, you own business, you own factories, you own a lot of things. Mashi, here we go. Yes, Hassanian, you want to say something? Oh, you are going with the recording, right? All right, good. Here we go. So they were financially secured, as I said, and in order to be accepted as an elite, you must act like an elite. You hear that? If you want to be accepted as an elite, you have to work, behave, dress up like an elite. As for the working class, the laborers working in order to survive. See, that is the third one. Working in order to survive. Too bad. So let's get to the morality now. What was or wasn't morally accepted? Okay, this includes speech, okay, manners, and clothing. Speech, manners, and clothing, according to your class. Okay, that's where you are accepted or you are not accepted. Sometimes you cheat. Sometimes you want to show them that, although you are from middle class, but you aspire to get to the upper class. And in the middle class, the work they try to imitate, try to do as the upper class. Anyway, the work in the class were men and women, as you know, who worked at a low-paid jobs and struggled to afford the clothes at their backs, a roof upon their heads, and unbelievable. Yes, this is unbelievable. And food to eat, enough to eat. The Victorian society offered a clear division between these classes. People of different classes would like or would live in a different neighborhoods. See, aristocratic neighborhoods cannot accept the middle class, cannot accept the working class at all. These are dedicated only for high class people. So neighborhoods also speak about that. Where you live and clothes you wear, in conclusion, in the Victorian era, there were strict norms, listen to this, and rules to follow. Strict norms and rules to follow. They dictate how you behave, how you act, not on your own, absolutely not, based on your race, gender, and class. What a place you had in society, what you could do or could not do, okay? This is depending on your way of appearing. Another characteristic of Victorian England that is important to understand that there are strict rules about morality. Listen to this. This is again something that we don't know what to do with. Imagine Okay? What was or was not appropriate behavior includes speech, manner, and, okay, obtaining or some people in the middle class, clothing, of course, trying to dress up like the, the, the aristocrat, okay, and act and speak like the aristocrat in order to be accepted, as you know. But it wasn't easy. It wasn't easy. Strict norms, strict rules, okay? And you have to be, you desire to get something, but not easy. This increased the chances. Some people in the working class also try to speak and act like the middle and try to, behave like that. But it's not easy. Another way the Victorian demonstrated their morals were in the clothing they wore, in the clothing they put on. You can see from these photos, okay, that you have, and sometimes even it reminds me of, 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 of the places where I visited, homes. They have veterans, or they have cupboards, or they have places at the corners of their houses where they demonstrate their belongings of silver, belongings of stuff to the visitor, to the guest, to show them that they are wealthy people. Okay, boy, boy, boy. Now, another thing is being appropriate or not appropriate, depending on the clothing, say on your dress. So you see that a woman cannot reveal body parts like ankles, like wrists, or neck. The woman should cover these. Ankles should be covered, wrists should be covered, and the neck should be covered. Men are expected to dress conservatively also, imagine, my friend, with shirts, ties, vests, jackets, and overcoats. In the Victorian era, and for those who can afford it, my friend, clothing was a way of demonstrating your socio-economic class, what social class you belong to, and economically, where do you come. The final characteristic of this age, listen to this, consumerism. You remember? We said the three of them at the beginning. We said identity, morality, consumerism. At the beginning of this lecture, I mentioned these three. So we are reaching the last one, which is consumerism. Now, members, the final characteristic said that members of the upper class look for ways to distinguish themselves from the lower classes. They do what? Huh? They shop at fancy shops. They would try to acquire things not only the wealthy could possess, because the British Empire stretched around the globe, so you can get things from India, from New Zealand, from Canada. From unbelievable. So the British Empire stretched around the globe, as we said, and people could buy things from around the world. The wealthy would buy these things, exotic things that they put to demonstrate their wealth on display in their houses. Okay, how well off they are. Imagine, okay, guests are really impressed, are really, taking at a moment to see what the heck is going on here. How well this family is. Okay, so you can see all this stuff this family has purchased, as I told you, okay, when I went to, anyway, to visit in-laws for my son, they showed me their silver stuff. Okay, anyway, so this is the place, okay, the corner for guests to see the elements to demonstrate their wealth. There are a few of the things that okay may notice or you may notice. What are the consequences that the upper class trying to outdo the middle class? Is that the members of the middle class trying to acquire, okay, the things. So they look for what like members. They look like members of the class, the upper class. This led, okay, to the fact that the upper class tried to find other means of having exotic things and buying them and making the middle class unable to do that. The classes here, okay, went on a buying spree, on a buying competition. And here you go. This is something that I hate to see and hate to talk about. And finally, I hope that these divisions help us understand this era. Okay, and finally, if you have any question, let me know. Okay, we said the basic beliefs of the Victorian era is that this identity, morality, is now we seem to have finished the introduction to the Victorian era. And by the way, when we talk about the Victorian era, we are in real trouble. Okay? We are in real trouble. In what sense we are in real trouble? Okay? What is, my goodness? So I hope that, Hassanin, how's it going with you now? Is everything okay? The recording? Great, thank you very much. Now I will open, the floor is yours, and kindly, if you have anything, let me know. Kindly, if you have anything, let me know.